Good evening and welcome to Be Inspired with Pepe Minambo, your inspirational show on personal, career, and business development. Proudly brought to you by Centenary Bank, our bank. And tonight we are continuing with our series on execution, getting the right things done. Last month in February, on the 26th of February, precisely at the Kampala Serena Hotel Victoria Hall, as a company, we were privileged to host these great events. And for the past few weeks, I've been featuring some of our distinguished panelists and speakers. And last week, I featured Robert Burale when he talked about the kinds of people you need in order for you to transform to full potential. You need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a sponsor or a voice, and you need a pay setter. So excited. And most of us, we are our own mentors, our own coaches, our own sponsors, and our own pay setters. That's why it doesn't work. Show me a man so accomplished. Show me a woman so accomplished. I will tell you, they were surrounded by these four kinds of people. They had a mentor. Who is a mentor? A mentor is an inspiration. A mentor is someone whose present is your desired future. A coach, simply a midwife. A sponsor is your campaigner, is the person that holds you and gets you through doors that you will never go through by yourself. And a pace setter is a stretcher, someone that stretches you again and again and again. And that was Robert's critical message to us last Tuesday as he was featured on this show. Tonight, I'm again privileged to feature another distinguished panelist we had on the event. This is Miss Proscovia Nabbanja, the Chief Executive Officer of Uganda National Oil Company. So we'll start our conversation with Prosy. As you know, tonight is the Evening of Inspiration 2025 edition. And the topic is execution, getting things done. Now, Prosy, as we have been allowed to address you, tell us, a light moment here. What has been your biggest learning since becoming a CEO?
I think one of the biggest learnings that I've had as a CEO for the last 5 years when I was taking over the leadership of the Uganda National Oil Company is the 4 Ds.
The 4 Ds.
That's number one, you must have the desire for the job, because had I taken the job and I didn't want it, I don't think I would have delivered.
Okay.
Then determination, determined to work and determined to deliver. Mm-hmm. The dedication, dedicated to serve, dedicated to do the greater good that the company expects of me. And then, of course, the discipline. Without discipline, leaders can't execute strategy. Without discipline, the leaders can't earn that respect. And without discipline, you can't lead a team. So for me, that has been the biggest learning. Of course, coupled with other things, with the sector that we are dealing with, it requires a lot of resilience because of the external shocks in the market that we face. And you need to stand up and be resilient enough to accommodate those shocks and either pivot your strategy where necessary.
Sure.
So those are some of the learnings I've had as a CEO for the last 5 years.
Wow. The best advice you've ever received in your career or as a CEO?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I have many, but I can pick on one. And I think for me, the greatest learning or advice I've received is you can negotiate a contract, you can negotiate a paycheck, you can negotiate anything negotiable, but never negotiate your values.
Proscovia, tell us, what is the craziest thing you've ever done in your career from this time you started? Craziest thing.
Wow. I've done quite a number of crazy things. But I think maybe one of those that I can talk about, not related to the career in a way, but I think one of the things that brought a shock to some of my friends is when I told them that I repaired a car in the middle of the road when it got stuck.
Wow.
So it's one of those. Then another one is I had a trip with a friend of mine to my farm. And of course, I had been called because the mechanics had failed to repair a pump. And then I get there, the mechanic is there, the casual laborers are there, and they had failed. So I get down and start repairing the pump, and lo and behold, it started working. So I like repairing things, even though I'm not an engineer.
Wow.
But I do love repairing things, maybe because of the family. Of course, I come from a family with majority being boys, but at the same time, maybe my career has also been in a way that I've been in a male-dominated industry for such a long time.
Repair a car, repair a pump, getting things done.
Get things
doing the
done.
thing.
You can't wait for someone else to do it.
Why don't you appreciate Proscovia, ladies and gentlemen? Now I'd like to get into the mainstream. I know you just recently returned from Nigeria, where the entire oil fraternity in Africa gathered in an event known as the Sub-Saharan Africa International Petroleum Exhibition and Conference, where you won an award, a continental award, as the CEO of the Year. Congratulations, Proscovia. I would like you to congratulate. It's like Uganda is winning in all fronts. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that award?
Thank you so much. And interestingly, I'm receiving this award for the third time.
The third time?
5 years.
Wow, wow.
And,
third time in 5 years.
It's quite humbling, but the Sub-Saharan International Petroleum Exhibition and Conference is about bringing Africa leaders, companies, regulators, service providers together to have a dialogue on our industry and the new developments such as policy shifts, emerging market issues, and then we deliberate on these issues and come up with strategies on how to navigate. And of course, it also includes discussing about trade, removing trade barriers between African countries, exchanging knowledge, relooking at the strategies of implementing oil and gas projects, and also celebrating leaders who have achieved it. So I'm incredibly proud that we received this for the third time.
What's interesting is that Uganda is such a baby in the oil space. Are we in agreement? You have the giant like the Nigeria, the Gabon, the Angola, and all these Arab countries. Now, Uganda just started recently, Unoc, and winning 3 times in 5 years. Is that something we would like to know about this winning strategy, Proscovia?
Yes, I think for us as a national oil company, of course, it's exciting for us to get into such an industry. And of course, it's not easy, for sure. And I remember when we were in South Africa, still as a national oil company, we received an award again, CEO of the Year. And then we've received another award for Breakthrough NOC, or National Oil Company of the Year. So it's been success after success, but recognizing the amount of effort a new entrant into the market puts in to deliver or to achieve key milestones. When we set up the National Oil Company, and I'm happy that I was employee number 2 after my predecessor.
Sure.
And thanks to my colleague here who was talking about being employee number 1, we had to get our hands in it, get your hands dirty, not in the rudimentary way, but ensure that you're up to the game. And as a new company, you need to set up systems and processes that are going to drive the strategy. Otherwise, you won't be able to deliver on that strategy. So you need to confine the staff that you're bringing into the organization within those battery limits of the organization. So of course, 5 years down the road, we've implemented the strategy And now the 3 pillars have changed a bit.
Okay.
Because right now we are looking at operational excellence, building capabilities, and growing the business. Because we've already started generating income for some of the business lines that we have. So what has really made us stand out in this strategy formulation process is not 1 or 2 things, but of course we had to bring the leadership. The board has a fundamental role because they are the owners of the strategy.
Yep.
And for you as a CE and management, you execute the strategy for the board. And of course, the board also allows you to execute the strategy within the confines of your risk or their risk appetite.
Yes.
Plus also they have a way in which they keep pulse on the talent that you're bringing into the organization. So board engagement was very critical. Then, of course, as we went through the strategy, it was very good to define, and again, the previous speaker touched on this, decision, where does it lie? Without clarity on decision making, you get into decision paralysis of sorts, that you don't know who is supposed to decide on what. So you need to be clear, and in order to define the decision matrix, you really have to map out your processes and define who is responsible for what, who is responsible for a decision, who is supposed to take an action.
Yes.
So it's very clear. Then the information itself, how fast does it flow from top to bottom? In the strategy formulation process, you have to engage everyone. And I think last year when I was here, we touched on the conversation of me engaging the drivers, the attendants, up to the board. It's your responsibility as a CEO to sell the vision, but make sure that your strategy is a story of how everyone contributes to the long-term good of the organization. And of course, there are other key factors. There is the motivation itself, which is key. And
staff motivation.
Yes, the motivation of staff. And this is a very critical piece because sometimes as organizations, we overlook the issue of motivation. But if you don't pay people commensurate to the work they do, I mean, the principle is pretend to pay, I pretend to work. So you have to be cognizant of the value that people are bringing on the table.
Pretend to pay, people pretend to work.
Pretend to work. Yes,
wow,
and you do not want people who check out even before they are checked out. People resigning before they resign.
Wow.
So you need to put motivation of staff at the forefront of your strategy process. And then, of course, there is monitoring the strategy, engaging everyone. For us at Unoc, the strategy engagement process it cuts across board. You'll never have a strategy conversation where middle management is not. You'll never have a strategy conversation where no one is understanding where they're going. So you have to ensure that every staff in the organization understands the cause and effect of the strategy. If I'm a driver, how does my driving a vehicle contribute to shareholder value? How does it contribute to reducing safety incidents on the road? So it's important that it's a collective effort, measure, and ensure that people are accountable for the actions that sit with them.